What's up, Internet? It's time for the Act 5 leveling continuation. Now, as I mentioned in all the other videos at the start, this is definitely not a video series for the experienced Path of Exile gamer. This is really just an accompaniment to my forum Freezing Pulse Totems guide, which I'll link in the description. I typically level my totem characters as Holy Flame Totem, and I figured I'd just make a video series to go along with the leveling tip section. So this is definitely more for like the newer player who's not necessarily comfortable leveling a new character in a build that they're not familiar with. I'm definitely not going fast at all. I'm definitely stopping to explain stuff or craft things, more to just ensure that I'm comfortable and powerful during the story and not just going really fast. And on that front, we're actually in pretty good shape. Only our gloves aren't very good, and they do have our Hierophant, our first lab enchant on there. But we could slap a couple of crafts while we're thinking about it onto some of our rares. Now this has an open suffix. We need a little bit of fire res. And I do have a transmute, so we can afford to do that. Got crafted life on a lot of stuff. I don't really need more resist, right? I mean, technically I could use a little bit more lightning res. There's not really much to do in the prefix though. And I'm pretty sure we would have tier 1 fire lightning. Although I guess I would use tier 1 cold lightning. I definitely can't afford this though. Don't think there's anything else interesting here that I could afford that I would want to do and actually have unlocked yet. So this guy has an open suffix. I've only got 3 alterations, so I can't do tier 1 cast speed. I think we're just gonna go. Don't think anything else here is interesting enough to warrant spending time on it. Let's go ahead and sell that. Where did my amulet go? I don't think this is actually worth taking off. Because lightning is my lowest, yeah. So, onward. If we find a 3-link wand, maybe we'll chuck the essence onto it. Or we'll chuck it onto the first pair of decent gloves I find. Like I mentioned in the last video, we sort of we're close to hitting like critical mass, I would say, to where the story is just like super easy. So we're just gonna be pretty much cruising. Now, when we're in the control blocks, the first thing we want to do is get the Maya's meter, which is in the northwest area of the zone. So you're gonna be following this like southern wall for a while. What was that? Jasper Chopper. You can see it right there on the map, right? We have to wind around a little bit to get there. But that is worth a skill point, so we definitely want to get it. And now we're going to be heading to the like northeast-ish of the zone. You can always jump whenever you see the gate is busted, like the fence has a little hole in it like that. You can teleport through those in the wall, right? Like you can't teleport up here, but if you come over to that little gap in the wall, you can, right? I feel like we hit a pretty good level of gear in time for this act. This is probably, I would say, the first... Act 4 might be the first like difficulty spike, but this is the one I think that catches more players off guard. You know, maybe you don't have Bleeding Flask still. Maybe Innocence is just going to be like, you know, too much burst damage for you. But we seem like we're in great shape. We're not really going to have much to worry about. Especially since we're going to be able to go ahead and get Cruel Prep now. Which is, it's like a good timing for more life and mana at this point, because we don't really need a lot more damage at the moment. And we'll get a bunch more damage when we can find even like a decent wand upgrade to our offhand. Since we didn't get our second crafted wand there until pretty late. Anyway, now that we've killed that guy, we took the eye, which is a very like suspect looking quest item, by the way. You just grab the quest item, or grab the waypoint here, and you head northeast. There's almost nothing to this zone. There's a named mob here in the middle by the... There's like a fountain here. Here she is, the matriarch. She makes like a triple repeat appearance for some reason. They really like that enemy. We'll see her like twice more at least. And then a bunch more if you play the city square map. As you can see, we, you know... We're already kind of at that point where we just get to drop totems and run. You can take decent burst damage here, and actually one of the things we forgot to do, maybe we'll do that right now, come to think of it. We'll get the waypoint. We did not set up in Act 4, we didn't set up our cast when damage taken, which could help us a little bit. I don't really have the sockets for it. We can move clarity over. And then I guess I can do it here. Nice. That was pretty lucky. So in Act 4, we can buy the gems cast when damage taken. I don't actually have... I can't afford this, come to think of it. That's probably why I didn't. But we want cast when damage taken and... Steel Skin. So whenever I get an alchemy orb, which is pretty soon because I've got 18 shards, maybe selling stuff. Yeah, this one's worth 2. Nice. So cast when damage taken. That worked out pretty good. And then we'll go back, and Steel Skin is an Act 1 gem. And like I said, I could have picked this up a long time ago, but I don't really use this gem unless I'm I have it in the cast when damage taken setup. And Nessa, because she sells these gems to you as quest rewards, they'll actually be a higher level. So if we find a Steel Skin here, which is right here, it's already level 10 and has 590,000 experience toward 11. So it's a level 36 requirement. It just is going to make it underneath the requirement for that. And that'll make us a little bit safer against the potential spike damage in Act 5. The charging guys can sometimes pile a bunch of unexpected spike damage on you. Make sure we reactivate our clarity too before we forget that. Now we will want to level our cast when damage taken. That's not one that we can leave at level 1 because it needs to activate higher levels of Steel Skin. The Rogue Exile sneaking around in there. This map layout, by the way, you want to come down into the, I don't know what you call this, the east or the southeast corner. But you want to just go from the exit. It's always the same layout. So you want to go from here into the southeast corner, and then you kind of wrap around, right? You follow the bottom wall, like the southern wall once you get here. And this will lead you to the Chamber of Innocence. And like I said, there are no more Eternal Labyrinth trials yet. We're not going to start getting new ones until Act 6. Hey, an Orb of Regret. So we could pick up something. If we want another alchemy. So, the Chamber of Innocence. There's a couple things we want to do here. Grab the waypoint. There is a crafting recipe. And I always forget where it is. We're going to try and remember. This is probably one of the... If you get burst down, it's going to happen here. There's a lot of... I think this is the crafting recipe right here, actually. Yeah. So... It's before this zone is separated sort of into two halves, kind of the same way the piety zone was. There's like an elevation change and a staircase here. I guess we had some Nico zones. You basically go northwest for a while, like west northwest. But as soon as you get to the elevation change, the zone kind of wraps around itself. I am going to kill a lot of these guys. This is a pretty good zone for experience, so I wouldn't, like, personally, I wouldn't rush through this unless you're over-leveled already. You might be over-leveled depending on what the league mechanic is and if you've been doing it. But here's this staircase. So this elevation change, once you hit this, you kind of wind up wrapping back into the south and then southeast. So once you hit that elevation change, we found a Leer cast. Now you're going to start going, like, start going south. Because this is a 43 zone. I think we just hit 42, yeah. So this is a pretty good zone to like catch up in experience if you are behind. But we're following the south wall, and we can see the door there. This last room has a crap load of blue enemies in it, by the way. So be mindful of that. But, you know, like I said, we're sort of at that point where it's starting to get easy. We will, just in time, get some nice life and resist bonuses. And now we gotta fight Innocence. But before we fight Innocence, we gotta kill this dork. High Templar Various. Who really doesn't stand much of a chance. He will, however, draw the fight out. Because he doesn't want to admit that he doesn't stand a chance. But there's really no risk here. You just drop your totems. You can probably guess what I'm going to say, right? Drop your totems, drop your flame wall, run in a circle. At this point, you don't even need to cast Wave of Conviction because you got Wave of Conviction totems. You do want to make sure that... Oh, dude, you're dead. Shoo. You want to get used to the habit of casting your flammability because it's really important that you do keep your Arcane Surge up. It's a lot of mana regen. Innocence really is not any different than any other bosses, especially because he does that beam attack. And the way you dodge that is running in a circle. So, typical prescription for a boss, drop your totems, curse them, and run in a circle. Sometimes they'll have proximity shields. Just drop a totem on them. He wants to finish casting his beam, so we'll let him do that. He'll start adding some named, I don't know what you'd call them. They're almost like golem looking, like female warriors here. There's one right there, prayer guard, I guess. They hit a little bit harder than most of these enemies, but you do enough damage to where it just doesn't matter. Like he's gonna die before he knows what's going on. Oh, we got a yellow wand. That might be a pretty nice upgrade. It's not really. It's cold damage to spells instead of fire. And some resists. But if I get a Chaos Orb, maybe I'll throw it on there. And then we get this random cutscene of the statue breaking apart. For some reason, Katava gets summoned through the statue, I guess. I'm not gonna lie to you, I don't pay a ton of attention to the story in this game. But you come out, talk to Banon. He's gonna be very sad that you killed his god. And then on your way back out, everything is going to shit. Or heck, sorry, YouTube. But nothing's really different, right? Like, you just have to be a little bit mindful. Those guys, the guys who used to have shields and now they have two-handers, they still charge sometimes. And this is like the other area, I would say, that in Act 5 you might get burst down if you eat too many of those at once. There's also, yeah, this guy on the way out. He dies and then resurrects himself and then dies again immediately. It's very dangerous. But the layout is exactly the same as it was on the way in, right? So you're going to go out to the corner and then kind of come back to the northwest area here. There's no waypoint here. They smashed it for some reason. Those jerks. Innocence. There are a couple of side quests we can still do here. Well, at least one, I suppose. Which is to kill the traitorous guy, right? We also need to go in here into the Ossuary and find the thingamajig. While we're thinking about it, though, why don't we jump back into town and turn in the Maya's meter that we never turned in and get our skill point. Banon wants you to kill the blacksmith because the blacksmith apparently turned traitor on us. We already have a silver flask and 2 quicksilvers, so I think I'm just gonna take the life here. And normally on a new league I would always take first snow because, you know, we want 2 of these for freezing pulse totems. Don't forget to take first snow here. Really important that you take it, especially at league start. That's terrible. That's not terrible, but I just don't have a use for it. I'll take a second freeze and chill immunity, I suppose. That's also pretty terrible. Now, we're getting to the point where I need to start thinking about the future in terms of mana. So, pretty soon here, I need to start taking the mana nodes that I'm connected to. It doesn't need to be just yet, but I want to take Mind Over Matter right around the time I'm preparing to get into second lab, which is at the end of Act 7. So we're finishing up Act 5 here. So within 2 acts, I want to have enough mana, including whatever I want to have reserved, to be able to take Mind Over Matter and not feel like I'm gimping myself, right? For now, I would say we have enough time, level-wise, to jump down here into Arcanist Dominion, grab this life and the Firewalker node here for cast speed and fire res. But we're getting close to that point, right? It should be on your mind, I suppose. Especially when you're thinking about item upgrades at this point. We're already here, so we can jump into the Ossuary. And this zone, if you come right around the corner here, this is actually where the zone ends. This exclamation mark and this crafting recipe. So you're really just trying to go around the wall to get here. If it helps you understand the layout of this place. Like, you're always trying to go in that direction. But as you can see, like, sometimes the layout is like this. We're gonna wind up going around, probably to the west this time. That might be an upgrade. Oh man, that was almost really cool. Cold spells is not what we were looking for though. So this thing is what we'll need to access the boss fight in this area. Pop this lever. Don't forget your crafting recipe on the way out. Head back out here. And there's 2 side quests we can do here. There is killing that traitorous guy who turned into like a monster with scissor hands or whatever. And then Katava's Torments. We'll eventually come back to this city. And there's like well, you know, the second half of the story is you basically retracing all the same zones. So you can kind of get used to the layouts right now. And a lot of the ones you come back to, you know, it's useful to have memorized. So if you remember where this guy is, you actually, this is like the only spot you don't come back to the second time. But this is the traitor guy who turned into like a monster. Who has a lot to say before he dies unceremoniously. There's also a hideout down here, if you don't have that yet. But if we come back and we follow this wall, this will take us to the Reliquary. You can also jump over here to where the fountain is. And you can kill the matriarch a second time. And she will be here yet again in Act 10 when you come back the third time. And this is roughly around the time when you're going to start more commonly seeing 5 sockets. I wouldn't bet on finding a 5 link in the story, really. And it's not necessary at all. This pace, I would say, is going to be kept pretty much throughout the rest of the campaign. So getting a 5 link is not a huge deal. But, you know, it's worth keeping an eye out. Want to. No. Now here in the Reliquary, you're basically hitting the corners of the map where the entrance is like the western corner. So you go from here to like the north-northwest corner. Get the first one. And then you're going to follow this wall all the way into the southeast corner. Definitely don't leave behind orbs of chance. You're going to want a bunch of those by the time you get to maps. Grab the second one. Now between the second and the third, when you're going clockwise like this, you will find a crafting recipe somewhere. It's going to be hard for me to see it now because I don't have it, like I'm in standard, I have them all unlocked, but somewhere along the southern wall is a crafting recipe. Here it is. Huh. right before the third one. Alright, so now that you've got all three, we can go back and turn both of these in. We get a skill point from the Reliquary. We get another jewel from killing Utala. And again, I would recommend taking the Viridian jewels because as soon as you start finding Vol Orbs, you can try to corrupt that into a self-flagellation. And that might save you a little bit of money in Trade League. Go ahead and spend your skill point. I've got 3 essences, so we should double check. We've definitely got 1 Sage Wand, which I can afford. What do we have? Adds fire damage. Unfortunately, this is local fire damage, so not the kind of fire damage we would want on a weapon. This is also cold damage, but local. So ideally, maybe we would just grab a Orb of Regret. So we got increased physical damage. So not much to be excited about there. I could also stand to check for some gloves. These are magic, which is no good. These are raw armor, which is not going to work, because I definitely want to not mess with my sockets too much at this point. What about belts? What is my current belt lightning res? So, not ideal. We could try a couple belts here for sure. Probably not that essence. Do like this one and that one. Neither of these are particularly good, unfortunately. Especially with lightning res as my lowest. I was hoping to have an open suffix, then maybe we could... This one has lightning, I guess. But... to what advantage? None. Alright. We can go ahead and just go kick the crap out of Kitava. Now when you're heading towards Kitava, you do want to remember that he's going to take 30% of all of your resistances after you kill him. So when you're thinking about, you know, being able to progress in Act 6 and beyond, you want to have, ideally, 105 resists in all of your elemental resists. What did I leave behind over here? You do get some help from the tree on your resists, right? Like early on you get a Holy Dominion, but even late, like around the time you get here, you're going to get 5% all res from here. You're going to get some fire res from here. So you can kind of plan for that in your gear. And I wouldn't sweat it too much if like you're a little bit short, but if you're in like the 60s on a resist, especially on cold, right as you get into Act 6, it can really get you killed. Because there's a lot of cold burst damage from the basic enemies in Act 6. And it won't feel good. So try to be aiming for like 100-ish in all of your resistances. And remember to use your crafting if you need that to get there. Anything that's got an open suffix can fit resists. And actually on that note, don't forget that even if you know, like this has lightning res on it, right? But if I wanted to, I could still put the hybrid fire and lightning res because it doesn't count. Like it doesn't, the lightning res doesn't block the dual res mod. It makes it a lot easier to cap certain resistances if you leverage that craft, which I think is the first one you pick up in Labyrinth. But you can kind of tell that, like, we're sort of nearing that point where I don't have to pay much attention. The game is getting much easier. And from here on out, it's going to be a pretty steady burn. Now, Kitava, you can't run in circles on Kitava, right? He's stuck in one place. All you can do is go left to right. But it's fine. This is an even easier fight than most boss fights. At least the first time. Of course, by the time we get to him again, we're gonna have so much more DPS than he has health. It's not gonna matter. This is probably his most dangerous attack because it leaves you know, these things on the floor that hurt your regen. These big guys do decent burst damage, but they're not. This whole phase is not going to live long enough to notice. Otherwise, just kind of move left and right. Watch out for this attack. Do a much better job than what I just did, but that does a fair amount of damage. But yeah, for the most part, you can just kind of wiggle left and right. He's trying to do it again. He thought he was going to get me twice, huh? After 3 times of doing that, he just falls over. But he does come back with a vengeance and blows up our cool little staff. Which is quite rude. But much more rude than that. He's going to take 30% of all of our resistances right there. Truth be told, I could have taken him even with minus 30 all res. I don't know why, you know, just get up and let me kill him. Sin definitely screwed up. But that wraps up Act 5. And because we were paying attention to our gear, we are basically ready to go. We've got capped elemental resist still. We're like a little bit lighter on life than maybe I would like to be at this point. But it's not going to matter because by the time we get to Act 7, we're going to be rocking mind over matter. We can replace our belt and our gloves and get some more life. We'll probably get some new boots maybe. I don't know. It's ultimately not going to be a big deal. I feel like everything is in a pretty good spot. From here on out, it's going to be a lot of face rolling the campaign. So that's going to wrap it up. I'm going to drop it off here, and I will see you guys in the Act 6 video, probably tomorrow. Peace.